Let's talk Trump accounts. Hi, it's financial planner Sean Mullaney. All summer, I have been going over the one big, beautiful bill. And now it's time to tackle Trump accounts. These are new accounts for children. And it gives parents the potential ability to put $5,000 a year into an account for their child. And so what I want to do in this video is, I don't want to go into the rules because the rules are still being developed. The IRS is going to come out with guidance on it. For the initial rules, Denise Appleby did a great video I'll link to. She did an article I'll link to in the description below. And that gives us the beginning of what these rules are going to look like, understanding that there'll be more rules coming from the IRS and Treasury later on. But I want to start thinking about planning, and it doesn't appear that we're going to be able to make contributions to these things until July of next year anyway. But let's just start doing the mental process of thinking these things through just a little bit. And I'm going to give you two examples to help us do that. First example, think about the parents of a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old in 2026, 2027. Okay. So what do those parents look like? Well, they probably look like they're 20-something or 30-something. Now, some of them might be in their 40s, but for the most part, those folks are going to be 20-something, 30-something. And they might be doing very well financially, but odds are they are not yet financially independent. Even if they are, they're maxing out their 401k, they got a Roth IRA, they got taxable brokerage accounts. Great. They're doing just fine, but they are not yet financially independent. Their financial future still has some doubt, some variability to it. Should that person be putting $5,000 into their kid's Trump account? I would argue no. And there's a big rule here. The rule says that outside of essentially rollovers between Trump accounts, generally speaking, you can't take distributions from a Trump account until the beneficiary turns 18. So January 1st of the calendar year, they turn 18. So if you're thinking about a Trump account and putting $5,000 away for the 1-year-old, 2-year-old, you're putting that money on ice for 15, 16, 17 years. You're putting it out of your grasp and out of your kid's grasp for 15 plus years. Do I think 20-something, 30-something parents of newborn children, 1, 2, 3, 4-year-old children should be doing that? Absolutely not, right? It's important to take care of mom and dad first. Now, look, if the dad happens to be a quarterback in the National Football League, fine, put that $5,000 away and move on with your life. But most parents need access to funds and should be building up their own retirements, not worried about the kid's future retirement, right? So in that scenario, parents, of 1, 2, 3-year-olds, I think should be saying thanks, but no thanks to Trump accounts. Well, let's think about a bit of a different scenario. Let's think about the child is now 14 and the parents are in their 40s or 50s and have done very well financially. And that's very important. They're already financially independent. They've crushed it financially. Now I start to think, boy, those Trump accounts look a lot more attractive. What could we do? Well, the mom or the dad, or maybe there's a very financially successful aunt, uncle, godparent, grandparent, right? What could they do, right? Assuming they're very financially successful, and that's of course out there, they could do the $5,000 a year at age 14, 15, 16, 17 for the child into a Trump account. Okay, well, what's going to happen is when the year the child turns 18, that thing now starts to look like a traditional IRA. And we're still waiting for some rules in this regard. But at least initially, it appears that a Roth conversion is going to be a possibility. Okay, and we still got to wait for the IRS to confirm that. But let's say that is true, that at 18, 19, 20, the beneficiary would now have essentially a traditional IRA with, $25,000 in it, say, assuming some growth, maybe 30,000, but maybe not, right? Who knows? But let's just say it's 25,000. So they got 5,000 of growth, 20,000 of old contributions that create basis. What that child could do, or that adult child, right, that teenager, early 20-something could do, is do Roth conversions of that $25,000 over 3, 4, 5 years. In years their income is very low, and they can get I believe it's $1,300, something very small. There's a small standard deduction for dependent children. I think for 2024 it was $1,300, but they essentially could use that to shelter the earnings piece of the small Roth conversion every year. And by the time they're of 22, 23, 24 years old, they could have $25,000 or $30,000 that they move from the Trump account to a Roth account, essentially tax-free. Maybe a smidge of it attracts a 10% tax. I think this is the sort of planning we should be thinking about for very affluent, very successful parents or godparents or aunts, uncles, grandparents. We should start thinking about that sort of planning with relatively modest amounts, but why not set up a 20-something to go into their working career with $25,000 in a Roth IRA, $30,000 in a Roth IRA? They didn't make a big contribution to, they didn't pay taxes on. And look, it's their money. It's up to them to make sure it all works out in the end. But that's a nice little head start. And if you're otherwise affluent, that could be a good way of using these Trump accounts affirmatively. But let me know what you think about one big beautiful bill, Trump accounts, in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please mash that like button and subscribe to my channel. I will see you next time.